Captain Sarah Sunshine Martinez stepped out of her F-16 Fighting Falcon, her boots hitting the tarmac with a solid thud that echoed across the airbase. The desert heat of Al Dhafra Air Base in the United Arab Emirates hit her like a wall, but she barely noticed. Her mind was still replaying the morning briefing, where Colonel Harrison had announced the squadron's upcoming deployment to support coalition forces in the region. As she pulled off her helmet, her shoulder-length black hair fell in waves around her face. The name tape on her flight suit read Martinez in bold black letters, but everyone knew her by her call sign, Sunshine. It had started as a joke during flight school, when an instructor sarcastically commented on her perpetually serious expression during combat simulations. The name stuck, much to her frustration. Walking toward the squadron building, Sarah caught snippets of conversation from other pilots lounging in the shade. She heard Lieutenant Collins, call sign Viper, talking to Captain Johnson, known as Thunder. "Did you see Sunshine's landing approach today?" Collins said with a smirk. "Textbook perfect as always. Girl probably practices her radio calls in the mirror." Thunder chuckled. "I heard she's got the highest scores in the simulator for air-to-air combat. Still can't believe they gave someone named Sunshine those ratings." Sarah kept walking, her jaw tightening slightly. She had heard variations of these comments for 3 years now. Ever since graduating second in her class from the Air Force Academy and first in her pilot training program, she had dealt with the assumption that her call sign somehow reflected her abilities as a combat pilot. The truth was far different. Sarah had earned her wings through relentless dedication and an almost supernatural ability to remain calm under pressure. Her instructors had noted her exceptional spatial awareness and split-second decision-making skills. During advanced combat training, she had consistently outperformed her peers in both defensive and offensive maneuvers. But the call sign followed her everywhere, creating a disconnect between perception and reality that frustrated her to no end. Inside the squadron-ready room, Sarah grabbed a cup of coffee and settled into a chair to review the mission files. The 421st Fighter Squadron had been tasked with providing air superiority and close air support for ground operations in a region where intelligence indicated increased enemy air activity. Major Williams, the squadron operations officer, approached her table. "Martinez, good flight today. Your formation flying is getting the new guys up to speed quickly." "Thank you, sir. Any updates on tomorrow's patrol routes?" Williams nodded. "Actually, yes. We're extending the northern corridor. Intel suggests enemy fighters might be testing our response times in that sector." Sarah studied the map Williams handed her. The northern route would take them closer to contested airspace, where the possibility of actual air-to-air combat was significantly higher than their usual patrol missions. "Any specific threats we should know about?" she asked. "Potentially hostile aircraft. Fast movers. The kind that won't hesitate to engage if they think they have an advantage." Williams paused. "I'm putting you on point for the morning flight." This was unusual. Typically, more senior pilots took lead positions for potentially dangerous missions. Sarah had been with the squadron for 8 months, but she was still considered one of the newer members. "Sir, are you sure? Captain Reynolds has more time in theater." Williams smiled. "Reynolds requested you specifically. Said your sim scores and training performance indicate you're ready for this level of responsibility." After Williams left, Sarah spent the next 2 hours studying intelligence reports and weather patterns. She memorized the locations of friendly forces, identified potential threats, and reviewed emergency procedures. This level of preparation was routine for her, something that had become second nature during her years of training. As evening approached, she walked to the base gym for her daily workout. Physical fitness was crucial for fighter pilots, who regularly experience G-forces that could render an unprepared person unconscious. Sarah maintained a rigorous exercise routine that included cardio, strength training, and flexibility work. In the locker room afterward, she overheard a conversation between 2 female ground crew members. "You know that pilot they call Sunshine? I heard she's got the best reaction times in the whole squadron." "Really?" "With a call sign like that, I figured she was probably just good at paperwork or something." Sarah smiled slightly. Even among the ground crew, the disconnect between her call sign and her actual capabilities created confusion. She understood why call signs existed in military aviation. They served as identifiers during radio communications and helped build camaraderie among squadron members. But she had always wished hers reflected her actual skills rather than an instructor's momentary sarcasm. That night, in her quarters, Sarah reviewed her flight checklist one final time. Tomorrow's mission would take her and three other pilots into airspace where the rules of engagement allowed for immediate defensive action if threatened. Unlike training exercises or routine patrols, this flight carried the real possibility of combat. She thought about her journey to this moment. Growing up in a small town in Texas, Sarah had dreamed of becoming a pilot since she was 8 years old. Her father had been a mechanic for a local crop dusting operation, and she had spent countless hours watching planes take off and land from the small airfield near their home. During high school, she had excelled in mathematics and physics, earning a congressional nomination to the Air Force Academy. The academic workload had been intense, but she had thrived in the structured environment. Flight training had presented its own challenges, from mastering complex aircraft systems to learning tactical maneuvers that pushed both machine and pilot to their limits. Now, lying in her narrow military cot, Sarah felt ready for whatever tomorrow might bring. Her training had prepared her for air-to-air combat, but she knew that real engagements were unpredictable in ways that simulations could never fully capture. The desert wind howled outside her window, carrying sand that would coat everything by morning. In a few hours, she would strap into her F-16 and lead three other pilots into potentially hostile airspace. The weight of that responsibility settled on her shoulders, but it felt comfortable rather than burdensome. Sarah closed her eyes and ran through her pre-flight procedures one last time. Engine start sequence, radio checks, weapons systems verification, navigation setup. Each step was automatic now. Muscle memory developed through hundreds of hours of practice. As she drifted off to sleep, her last conscious thought was about the morning's weather briefing. Clear skies with unlimited visibility. Perfect conditions for flying, but also perfect conditions for anyone else who might be sharing the same airspace with less than friendly intentions. Tomorrow would test everything she had learned about aerial combat. Tomorrow would determine whether 3 years of preparation and training had truly prepared her for the moment when theory became reality. Tomorrow, Captain Sarah Martinez would discover what it really meant to be a fighter pilot named Sunshine. At 0500 hours, Sarah's alarm pierced the pre-dawn darkness of her quarters. She had been awake for 10 minutes already, her internal clock precisely tuned to military schedules. The morning routine that followed was identical to hundreds of others. Physical training, shower, breakfast, and final equipment checks. In the squadron briefing room, four pilots gathered around a large table covered with maps, weather reports, and intelligence updates. Captain Reynolds sat to Sarah's right, his call sign Hawk, reflecting 15 years of fighter experience. Lieutenant Morrison, nicknamed Dash, represented the squadron's newest pilot with only 3 months in theater. Captain Kim, known as Phoenix, rounded out their 4-ship formation. Major Williams entered precisely at 0630, carrying updated intelligence reports that immediately caught everyone's attention. Gentlemen and lady, we have new information from overnight reconnaissance, Williams announced, spreading aerial photographs across the table. Satellite imagery shows increased activity at 3 airfields approximately 200 miles north of your patrol route. Sarah studied the photographs carefully. The images showed aircraft dispersed around the airfields in patterns that suggested preparation for operations rather than routine maintenance. Sir, what types of aircraft are we looking at? Reynolds asked. Intelligence estimates suggest a mix of modern fighters. Fast, maneuverable, and equipped with beyond visual range missiles. Williams pointed to specific areas in the photographs. These positions indicate they're preparing for offensive operations, not defensive